Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Dr. Coco's Mnemonics. Today I'm going to be going over the brachial plexus. The brachial plexus is not that high yield. This was a request from somebody on YouTube, and I'm going to go through kind of the high yield things that I've come across on questions for the brachial plexus. I've noticed that as an MD student, I don't get as many questions, but my study group has DOs in it as well, and they get brachial plexus questions a lot. And so we would go through this together and it would help. First, I'm going to show you, this is a picture I came up with when I took anatomy like a couple years ago, and it has a lot of stuff on it. I would recommend you like screenshotting this and just, using it as a reference as far as like I have the muscles on here, I have the nerves on here, and I've got the different injuries that happen. And I'm not going to go through all of these on this video. I'm just going to do like a quick little how do I think of things for the brachial plexus on exam. And so if I get a question on the brachial plexus, the first thing I do is try and just draw the structure out. So this is the first thing I do. So I draw two lines. They come together like this. I do the same thing, but I do it backwards in the middle, and then one more time, flipping it each time. So like the little V or greater than, less than sign, whatever you want to call it, kind of flips on each side. The next thing I do is I draw out an X right here. So I do another one, kind of like a greater than or less than sign right here, and I put an X on this top one. So we do an X and a like greater than sign, and then I do another greater than sign over here connecting these big guys on the outside. And there's going to be one right here as well that goes out. And I know this is like a basic drawing, so if you can, go through, draw these lines out first, and then go through and draw your X, greater than sign, and then connect these. This is honestly what I draw on most of mine. I just label a couple of extra things. And so when I do anatomy, I look a lot at like fractures, because that's what you're more likely to get a question on if you fracture what nerve is the problem versus just asking like, oh, what nerve innervates what muscle. And I like to think of this arm mnemonic when you do fractures to help me fill in the brachial plexus. And if you don't know what the arm mnemonic is, it's pretty common. My anatomy professor taught us this. So if you have a fracture at the top of your humerus, it's going to be the axillary nerve. Midline or mid-shaft fracture will be radial nerve. Down here will be the median nerve, and then the epicondyle will be the ulnar nerve. So it's like arm university, I guess. ARMU is kind of how I think of it. And so I use this to kind of go through and fill this out. So first we have A, R, M, university. Just like on this mnemonic, arm, A, R, M. And so that's going to be axillary, radial, median nerve, ulnar nerve right there. And you're like, oh no, you forgot this one up here, right? Well, actually, I think of it as this is the superior one. This is going to be C5, C6. This is the most superior one, so I call it the musculocutaneous, thinking it's more cutaneous, superior. I kind of like put those in my head together as far as like cutaneous would be the most superficial or superior. Yeah. So if you can think ARMU, and then the superior one is going to be the most superficial, so cutaneous. And then I just added in here, this is, you just count down for C5, 6, 7, 8, and T1. And again, here, this is the picture at the beginning, so I'm just going to use this to go over some of the higher yield injuries that I've had questions on. The winged scapula, I've actually had a lot of questions on before, as far as knowing that it's C5 through C7. Where you get a winged scapula, they usually describe it as a patient who puts their arms on the wall and one of the scapulas kind of wings out, so to say. And this is going to be the long thoracic nerve right here, the C5 through C7. And I always think of it as SALT. So serratus anterior is long thoracic nerve. That's probably the most high yield on this entire picture that I've had questions on, is this serratus anterior long thoracic SALT causing the winged scapula of C5 through C7. The other two that I've had so many questions on is going to be this tennis elbow and the golfer's elbow. And how do you think of this? Well, when you play tennis, think of how somebody plays tennis and they extend their arm out, right? Versus when you play golf, your elbows are more in towards your body. And so I think of it that way because the radial nerve does the extensors of the arm, right? So the radial nerve, or the posterior part of the arm doing the extending, gives you the tennis elbow. Versus when you play golf, your elbows are more interior, or not interior, midline. So think of when you play golf, and what's most midline to you is your ulnar nerve right there, or your ulnar bone is the most medial. I have others on here that may show up on your exam, such as the Klumpke's, hands of benediction. I've had a couple of questions on the posterior cord having an injury when you use crutches for too long, but those have been mostly on like actual classroom exams, whereas on UWorld and NBMEs and STEP, I've only actually had questions on the winged scapula before. But I would definitely take a picture of this, use it for your own reference, and I hope this helped you kind of think through a little bit of the brachial plexus. And if it did, please like and subscribe to my channel.